Hey, let's talk about something. Why do people go to church? Especially when, let's be honest, it doesn't always seem fun, right? It's a huge question, and it really gets to the heart of what we're all looking for in life. Is it just about having a good time, or is there something deeper? That's exactly the tension we're going to dive into today.
I mean, let's just be real for a second. For a lot of people, the immediate answer is, yeah, it's boring. You know, the hymns can feel a little stuffy, maybe the sermons don't always hit home, and the whole vibe can just seem dated. But is that all there is to it? Is that the end of the story? Or, and this is the key, are we maybe asking the wrong question in the first place?
And look, this isn't just some abstract debate. The author of the piece we're looking at, who was a student pastor back then, actually had this exact conversation with a friend. And his friend was being totally sincere, saying, "Man, I'm telling you this as a friend, you should just quit." Can you imagine hearing that? The friend wasn't trying to be mean. They just genuinely could not understand what the fun was in a life that looks like all sacrifice.
But the author's response? It's pretty fascinating. He doesn't argue and say, no, you're wrong, it is fun. Instead, he says something like, I have a fun you don't know about. He's basically suggesting they're playing two completely different games with two different definitions of fun. He's pointing to this whole other kind of fulfillment, a joy that his friend just couldn't see. And that simple exchange, right there, totally sets the stage for everything we're talking about. It completely shifts the focus. We're not trying to defend church by saying it's not boring. We're starting to ask, is boring even the right way to measure it at all?
So this gets us to the core conflict, the big idea in our source material today. It's really a showdown between two massive human drives, the hunt for fun and the deeper search for meaning.
Okay, and this comparison here just nails the difference. You've got fun on one side, think nightclub. It's all about that momentary pleasure, right? That rush. Then you've got meaning on the other, represented by the church in this view. It's going for something with deep significance. One experience leaves you feeling thirsty again pretty quick, while the other is trying to quench a much, much deeper thirst.
So here's the takeaway from the source. If you walk into a church looking for the same kind of fun you'd get at a nightclub, you're pretty much always going to be disappointed. It's not trying to be an entertainment venue. It's not competing with a concert or a club, because its whole purpose is completely different. Judging it by how fun it is, it's like, I don't know, trying to measure how hot it is with a ruler. You're just using the wrong tool for the job.
All right, so if it's not about fun, then what is it for? What deep human need is it trying to meet? Well, our source gives us this really simple but honestly powerful analogy to break it down. Think about that worldly fun we talked about, the nightclub vibe. The source compares it to a sugary soda on a really hot day. You know that feeling. It's sweet, it's bubbly, it feels great for a second. But that relief just doesn't last. And before you know it, you're actually even thirstier than you were before. But then, on the flip side, you have the experience of faith and meaning. And that's compared to, well, just plain water. It might not have that same sugary thrill as soda, but it satisfies a core, fundamental need. It gives you real vitality. It's not a luxury, it's an essential for life. And this leads us right to the central activity of a church, worship. And this is so important to get. Worship isn't supposed to be a show that you just sit back and watch. It's meant to be this active participatory thing where a whole community gets together to connect with God, connect with each other, all in the search for that water of meaning we've been talking about. Now, this whole idea, this search for meaning, this thirst for spiritual water, it's not just some philosophical concept. According to our source, it actually leads to a very real, very concrete place. So, the source points us to this really critical moment in the Gospels. Jesus gives this teaching that was, well, pretty tough to swallow. And the crowds that had been following him around, all excited, they started to leave. The buzz was wearing off, and people were literally just turning around and walking away. So just picture the scene. The movement is shrinking. All that initial hype is gone. And Jesus turns to his inner circle, his 12 closest friends, and asks this really direct, almost painful question, you guys want to go too? And what Peter says next, man, it gets right to the very heart of everything we're discussing. And pay close attention to what Peter doesn't say. He doesn't say, no, we're staying because it's so much fun. He doesn't even say it's because the community is so great. His response is actually another question, and you can almost hear the desperation in it. Lord, to whom shall we go? It's like he's saying, where else is there? They hadn't stuck around for the entertainment. They had found something way more essential, the words of eternal life. That's it. That's the spiritual water. And just like that, the whole argument comes full circle. We started with this general idea about church, but now it becomes a really personal question for every single one of us.
So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. First, from this perspective, the goal of church isn't really fun, it's meaning. It's not offering a quick fix, it's offering that essential water of life. And where do you find that life-giving water? In the words of eternal life, which are all tied up in a specific person and their message.
And that leaves us with one last really big question. You had Peter, who was driven by this desperate search for life-giving words, and you had the author's friend, who was just looking for worldly fun. So the question isn't just for people who go to church, it's really for all of us. When you take a hard look at your own life, what are you really thirsty for? Is it that momentary pleasure, that soda, or is it that lasting meaning, that water?